What do I love about a grown-ass woman? There's so much to love.
Now give it to me.
She's unapologetic. She shows up in every space exactly who she is. She wedges the door open for other women to follow. I'm Shannon Allen, and you're listening to Grown Woman. Your pathway came from a place of pain and has grown into a place of purpose. So I'd love for you to kind of take us back to really experience that. And also, I think one of your pillars at Wahasu and your entire well-being empire, if you will, is based on this idea that happiness is a journey. It's a practice. Mm-hmm. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, and it's a choice.
It's a choice. So take us back
Not joy. You can't choose joy.
Joy just happens.
Or not, but you can choose
Yeah.
happiness, and there's the framework around that. Absolutely, and it is a practice. And so my practice began actually with unhappiness. So, in heartbreak and horror, disappointment, I mean, just everything you can imagine, all a cocktail of negative emotions. My husband caught a cold, which developed into the flu, and took him to the hospital to get like a nebulizer and see if, what was going on, and misdiagnosis, etc. And 5 days after, he died, and he died of the flu. 2 days after, I felt like, okay, I want to check out. So it wasn't like I wanted to end my life physically, but I wanted to go into my bedroom, turn on the AC really cold, pull down the shutters, and just get into my bed and just shut the door to anything.
Close out life.
Close out life. I had been married half my life. I got married at 21. He died when I was 42.
He's your best friend?
My best friend. The person who got me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he knew every imperfection. And those are the ones that he liked the most about me. So that is, I think, losing a spouse is really hard, but like losing that friend that totally got you, And so
And you had a family together. You've got 2 boys.
That's what I was getting to next. And then I had this like whisper in my ear, what about the children? And I was like, what? Like, first thing is like, somebody else do that, but of course you can't. So I'm having this internal story in my head. And it's like, okay, I have to be there for my kids because it's bad enough that this happened. I'm not going to make it worse. They're not going to lose the mother.
Right.
And
was that his voice in your ear?
No, that was my mom.
That was your mom?
That was my mom. That was like, Matt, no. I was like, what?
Gather yourself
exactly.
up.
Let's go.
Time to dust all that off.
It's like my mom,
Moms will do that.
Yeah.
Mom for the win.
Yeah. And so in that moment, I decided that I was going to live. And
you made a choice.
I made a choice. I'm going to live. And then I made the other choice. Since I'm going to live, even though I don't want to. So that's another thing. Don't wait to be happy to be happy. It's not going to come and hit you, sit on your lap. You got to
go anyway.
No, you got to go find it. What's for you? Like you said, for you is the beach.
Yep.
You had to do different iterations to figure out it was a beach.
Right.
And then cultivate the relationships with your family so that they would want to go with you to the beach.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I said, to this horror and pain, something beautiful has to happen. So I'm going to be happy. I choose happiness. Don't know what it is. I didn't know about the science. I hadn't, my first degree is in journalism and communications.
And you were in the workforce.
Yes.
So even when your husband passed away, it wasn't like, oh my God, I've been out of the workforce for 20 years raising kids.
But I was working part-time.
Okay, so that's also a challenge because now you have to provide for your kids.
Well, that's what came next, right? And so I was working part-time. He was a primary income source. So I worked with something that really connected me and I loved doing it. And my children play sports and all that. And you know what that looks like on a day of school and
chaos
sports.
Is your normal.
Exactly. And exhaustion.
Yeah.
And anyway, I decided that I was going to go to happiness. I didn't know where that was, but that hung onto that. And I then went into how do you do that? And so I went into purpose and meaning. I am going to make meaning out of this event that happened. I can do that. That's my choice.
This part of your story was the genesis.
Yes.
I think of you, one, being a grown-ass woman.
Thank you. Hey. Okay.
Yes, that part.
Yes, that
and
part.
being a warrior mom, which I also, that is absolutely
We're
part
kindred
of,
spirits in that.
Yes. And when tragedy or potential tragedy or hardship or pain hits your children, it affects you differently than any other pain, I think.
No, for sure.
But you took your pain from this moment with Carmani, and not only did you turn it into purpose, but you actually became an expert at providing him with essentially a cure.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beginning of your family.
Yes.
Tell us about that for people that don't know this story.
Yeah. Well, when I got pregnant with Carmani, we had him tested in utero because we both were carriers for sickle cell. And unfortunately, he did have the disease. And so from that moment on, we were just trying to figure out like what we were going to do, how we were going to help him. We were living in Utah at the time, and the altitude is really bad for anyone who has sickle cell anemia. So we came to Miami. He was born here because we had a summer place here down in Brickell. Soon after he was born, he started to display signs that he was going to be on the very severe spectrum for sickle cell.
And what would those symptoms look like?
He had dysplasia of his hands and feet at a very young age, at 3 months. And at that point, he wasn't even supposed to be showing any symptoms. You're supposed to still be carrying a lot of hemoglobin from your mother at that point in time. So that let us know that
his hands and feet would be very cold.
Swollen.
Swollen.
Yes.
Okay.
So that kind of let us know that he had symptoms that showed he was going to be on the severe end. So from that point, I went to like a clinic that specialized in sickle cell, and I'm all excited. I'm going into this clinic thinking they're going to like give me all this possibility. And they had nothing.
The clinic for sickle cell anemia had
nothing. They had some medications. Oh, there's some experimental studies that maybe, possibly, and it was like, oh, you can take this medicine and basically hope for the best. And for me, that wasn't a viable answer. So I was like, I can't just sit back and watch my son suffer.
And you didn't have a medical background. What was your master's degree at Duke in?
No. Yeah. Accounting. And business administration.
Exactly.
The most boring thing imaginable. Yeah.
Oh my God. So this numbers cruncher said, no, but you recognize a real problem.
Yeah. So I just started to research. And I found a hospital in Atlanta at Emory.
Okay.
And there was a doctor there who was really cutting edge, and he had a sickle cell clinic, and he had done all of the first bone marrow transplants, and he had success, and people were cured and living amazing lives. And I was like, I love you.
Right.
Can I hug you?
Yes.
And I was like, I want to do that. And, from there, you just find out the best way to get a match is through a sibling.
You didn't have a sibling at that time.
I didn't have a sibling at that time. So we went through in vitro to get a match because we wanted to test the embryos to make sure that it was going to be an HLA match for his transplant as well as being a healthy embryo.
So let me stop you right there. At that time, when you and the boy's dad sat down and said, this is a viable option for us that could not just potentially save Carmani's life, it can give him a quality of life that he deserves.
Right.
But the only way we're going to get this, based on what this doctor was saying at Emory, is if we give him siblings that aren't an HLA match and they become the donor.
A sibling.
A sibling.
A sibling was the goal.
Okay, sibling.
We were hoping for one.
Yeah. And he was on board with that? What did everybody in your life say? Because sometimes when you say, I'm going to go left, everyone in your life is like...
Oh, everyone thought I was cuckoo
for
Cocoa Puffs. They were like, I think that Carlos at the time, he was very amicable. He just wanted me to be happy. He wanted Carmani to be okay. And even if he didn't understand all the things that I was coming home with this grandiose idea about what I was chasing, he was like, okay, if you want to do it, I support you. And I think he just let me drag him along.
Yeah, okay.
Because he was also working and he was playing at the time.
And traveling.
And so, I think he was just, I give you my full support. If this is what you want to do, you do it. And he went along with the process, and we did in vitro. I had 2 embryos that were a perfect match
Was that a shock?
for the transplant. Yes, because the doctor was like, let me implant 2 because just in case one doesn't take. And I'm like, sure. And then 8 weeks later, you go back and they're like, you're having twins. It's like, hey, buddy, I signed up for 1.
Right. Just the one was fine. Can't give them back now.
No, you can't give them back now. So it was a blessing. And I think it kind of gives a beauty to our family that can't really be described because the twins know that they were brought here to save their brother. They know that he's alive and healthy because of them.
And they have a sense of like pride.
Absolutely.
And also like, what's the other word I'm looking for? It's like purpose.
Yes. Well, and you also have that interconnection because without Carmani and everything that he was going through, we may have never gone through that process. So like they're literally here because of him and he's here because of them. And it gives you that closeness that I think as a mother, we all want. Like you want your kids to rely on each other, to love each other, to have that special bond because eventually it's just going to be them. We won't be here.
Right.
So I appreciate that and that connection for them.
I'm so blown away by you, CeCe. Like I actually, all these years that I've known you and we've been basketball moms together across the court from each other, in gyms, in your backyard with trainers, doing events together, you know, grown, providing food for stuff for you for the Super Bowl and all the things that you've ever worked on. I don't think that I really knew that you were the brains behind Kamani's cure. And I just, with my own child that I'm desperate for a cure for, I am just like getting emotional thinking about it, how truly incredible it is what you did for him and for your own family. And you're a fucking rock star.
No, thank you. But you know what? But that's why we're kindred spirits because I watched you in the process with Walker.
Yeah.
And you never settled. You were like, I'm going to find a way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that my baby is healthy and he's strong. And I give him every opportunity to have a normal life. And I think we both had that shared like feeling of doers. We're doers.
Yeah.
You know, we are the worker bees of the world. And nobody's going to tell us that we just have to accept this circumstance, right? I will save myself. I'll put on my cape and go out there and save myself if I have to. And
period.
You know, I love that about you. And I think that that's what draws us close to each other.
Yeah.
There was a point 2 months in where I got an email and I thought, oh, this doesn't feel right. And even though I felt that, it was Christmas Eve. I had a house full of relatives. They had all come for a reunion. I'm in my kids' bedroom making them sleep. And as I'm singing to my children, which is what I used to do every night, you know, Maya's over here in her crib and Kyler's in his toddler bed and I'm in the middle of my glider singing them to sleep. And I get an email and I'm looking at my BlackBerry while I'm singing my children to sleep because this is what working moms do.
Exactly. We're doing 7
at 8
things
o'clock
at
on
once.
Christmas Eve.
Right.
And so I look at the email and I was like, huh. It was like a sucker punch. Like that didn't feel right.
What did it say?
The buyer is going to get $72,000 from the rental guarantee. And I knew there was a rental guarantee. It was just a lot more than I had thought about. It's like, okay, as long as it's going monthly and the way we've talked about it. There was an attachment to the email. Without opening the attachment, I forwarded the email to my closing coordinator, who's a woman that worked for me.
Okay.
And so the question is, why did I forward it
Without
on
reading
Christmas
it.
Eve
Right.
without opening the attachment?
Okay.
I have a house full of relatives. It's almost Christmas morning. The kids aren't sleeping and none of my presents are wrapped.
And you probably have a pie in the oven.
So I forward the email. That one email became one of the main pieces of evidence that then the government used. So what ended up happening was 7 years after I met the developer, I got indicted. And like in between, the FBI had come to visit me and, you know, I met with them without an attorney for 4 hours.
The FBI? You met the FBI without an attorney? Why?
Yes, because
you're an
no one
attorney?
tells you that when the FBI comes, you can actually say to them, can I call you back when I have an attorney with me?
Right.
And they know that. So they operate off fear and intimidation. And I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. My files are clean. They passed audit. So sure, come into my office. I had a table like this. They sat and grilled me for 4 hours. Have you ever seen this picture? Did you ever read this email? All of it. So after they left, it was 2 years after that I got indicted. And I was freaking out. I mean, there's no words to describe the emotion.
So here you are. You're a married woman. You've got 2 small children. You're doing everything you can to kick ass in your business. You get a knock on the door from the FBI. You're being indicted. And when the verdict comes through, what do they say?
Well, so it didn't happen that quickly.
Okay.
I got indicted. Then I spent a lot of time trying to fight the indictment.
Okay.
Like trying to fight and like prove that I wasn't guilty. And I was so convinced that I hadn't done anything wrong. Like I didn't do anything wrong. So I told my attorney, I'm going to go through every piece of evidence by myself, which by the way, defendants don't do. But I'm an attorney and I'm like, I'm going to prove that I'm innocent. So I would take my kids to school. They were at Alexander at the time. I would take them to school and then camp started because the summer started. And every single day I printed out 200,000 pages of documents, 15,000 emails. And every day, this is what I did.
15,000 emails?
Yes. Because Shannon, this was my whole life. I mean, this was like everything I had worked my entire life for.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, I have to prove that I didn't do anything. And I really thought that. So like, as I began to go through the evidence, I realized all the things that they were doing that I didn't know about. And that's where the problem.
Without your knowledge.
Without my knowledge. So it would be like, so some of them, the things would be like, you were a straw buyer. And me as a closing agent, there was no way I would know that. But they were using your credit to get you to buy a unit that you were never actually gonna, like, you didn't really care if you had or not. Now, why would you do that? Well, you're doing it because 3 weeks after closing, you got $30,000.
You're gonna get a check.
Yep, you got a check for them being able to use your credit. And the cashier's check that you brought me for closing, you know, like when you buy something, you have to give a cashier's check. That money was being funneled to you by a third party. So you had no skin in the game.
And so they knew they were doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
But you did not have knowledge
I didn't
of
know
it.
until I got indicted all these other things. I did know about the rental guarantee, but I didn't know about all these other things. So then after like 4 months of me going through all this discovery, my attorney called me into his office with my parents. And he's like, I've known him 20 years. His wife went to college with me. They live down the street. They live like literally right here. And we're friends. Like we go to each other's parties.
Yeah.
And he goes, Rashmi, like if we go to trial, I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose. Because as an attorney, you had a fiduciary duty to do more. And he's, you know, and my parents, like my dad walked out 6 times from this meeting to go to the bathroom, but like literally each time he would come back crying with his eyes a little redder. You know, and he said, Rashmi, if you want to go to trial, we'll go. I will fight as hard as I can for you, but I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose. And you're looking at 20 years. Like you're going to miss all of it. You're going to miss your kid's life. You're going to miss all of it. And there's like no appeal.
This was the moment that changed everything.
This was the moment. He goes, I know you. I know you're a good person. I know you didn't walk into this planning a crime. And then he said, but not doing something is still doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And that's such an important thing for all of us to think about, right? Because it's
silence is complicity.
Yeah, you can't be willfully blind. You can't pretend not to know. And the truth is that my gut was screaming for a long time when I was doing this, and I kept shutting it down. And our gut knows. Yeah. We can call it God.
You didn't want it to be true.
Our moral compass. Right.
You didn't want it to be true.
So I pled guilty. And I owned it, even though I didn't know all this other stuff, but I knew at least one thing. And because they had indicted me for conspiracy, one of the counts was conspiracy. And on a conspiracy count, all they have to show is that I knew one thing. There can be 500 million other things that I did not know. But if I know one thing, that's enough. And he goes, Rashmi, your name is on every check, every settlement statement, every document, every email. There's no jury that will say that you didn't know at least one detail. And the bar is very low for them to prove that you're guilty.
Tell me about how you turned your pain of losing a sibling, which is impossible to even conceive of. And obviously your dad is irrevocably changed after losing a child. No one should ever lose a child. Yeah. How did you turn your pain into purpose? Because I know that Michael is, well, one, so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Yeah, I feel him with us every day.
Yeah.
He's here right now.
Yeah. How did you do that? I mean, I know you guys have each other.
Yeah.
And thank God, but this was unbelievable. I mean, I remember picking you up.
You were there.
You were there
you were there the whole time.
Yep, absolutely. You know,
I remember picking you up, Darce, in New York, and just driving like a bat out of hell to the hospital so you could get there in time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
And man, that was something.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
But you guys have taken this hardship, this tragedy, this incredible loss, and really turned it into something special. And when did you guys know we're going to do a fashion line and it's going to be for Michael, and we're going to really honor him
Right.
through this other thing that we love so
Right,
much,
right.
which is fashion and design.
I feel like, you know, after he passed away in '98, you know, we had such that loss, and then he's always in our heart. And I felt like we needed to do something. We were just stay-at-home moms at the time, but right after the divorce and during that time when our dad was around, he gave us this motivation, like to strive and, you know, do something. And we always wanted to do it in honor of him. And I felt like that was our way to never give up.
Like
if someone
his-
brought us down, we would
Yeah.
just keep going, be Silva strong and keep going. Because if he could fight, so can we.
And that's where Silva Strong
And
comes
that's
from.
where
Yes.
Silva strong
Yeah,
from our
from
brother.
Michael.
Because he always fought all
He
the
was the last
treatments.
Silva to carry the name.
And we took our last name back.
That's why we took the Silva name back after the divorces.
Yeah.
Wow.
So until this day, we will continue to do that.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a lot of
Like
challenges.
his death, even though you know it was painful and stuff, it's never in vain. Like
Right.
his memory, people will know his name. I want the whole world to know who Michael
Right.
Silva was.
Yeah.
And how he
Through
was a
his-
fighter. And if we had to
story.
do it through our fashion brand House of 11, you know,
He's
it's
watching
just
over us. He
People
believes in
know.
our
They
journey.
stop us in the street. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, your brother!" Like your story hits because everybody's had someone that's passed.
Yes, of
but it
course.
hits home and it just resonates. And I just feel like
And you
if
guys are
we
so
could just-
vulnerable and so open when
Yeah.
you talk about him and how much you love him. And you guys lived
gosh,
all
yeah.
over the world
Yeah.
together.
he was our protector.
If we can
He was
help
like,
heal somebody through our story and the pain that we've gone through
Yeah.
and the resilience that we've gone through, it's worth every
he was. I
every
remember
moment.
he would tell us never give up.
Yeah.
Twins.
Because we were bullied
like,
growing up.
Yeah.
You know, we were like the underdogs. We
Right.
were shy. We were
nerdy, shy. Remember?
introverted. We never really talked. We just kind of had each other because we always
You
moved.
know,
You guys
like
always
family.
it was
Yeah,
so hard to
it
put down
was.
roots.
Yeah,
So yeah,
like
you know.
family was our safe haven. Like you guys, like
Yeah.
like our home.